Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Happy New Year to you guys. Happy New Year. It's 2021 and I pray that we find love and happiness and all that we desire in this new year. So it's 2021 and Grace's Stitches is back and better. So to start this year, I'm going to be showing you how I made this beautiful kimono dress. Some call it boo-boo dress. Okay, so I actually think that the beauty of this dress is in the width of the dress. It has to be a little big, and also in the length of the dress. It has to be about or something shorter than your knee level actually. So I used about 2 meters for this dress, and I think depending on your size, 2 to 3 meters will be just perfect. So let us get to it. This is the fabric that I'll be using to make the dress, and I've already folded it into 4. Alright, so the 2 at the top is for the front pattern, while the 2 underneath is for the back pattern. And also the length is 35. That is the length I want actually. So if you want to measure your length, you can measure from your neck down to wherever you want it to be. But remember that I said that the beauty of the dress is for it to be a little above the knee level or on the knee level. So guys, to get the width of the fabric that you're going to fold, you can either use your sleeve measurement, that is measure from the back of your neck to where you want the sleeve to be, or you can use your hips measurement. So if you are using your hips measurement, okay, you should just get your total hips measurement and add 15 inches extra to it. Okay, so whatever your hips measurement is, for example, my hips measurement is 40 plus 15, that will be 55. So 55 inches will be the total width of the fabric that I'll be using, and then I'm going to fold 55 inches into 4. I hope you understand me. All right, so if you're using your sleeve measurement, so you can just measure from the back of your neck to wherever you want the sleeve to be. All right, and then you multiply that by 4. That is going to be the total width of the fabric that you will need. All right, I hope you understand. So you fold your fabric into 4. I haven't gotten the total width of the fabric. So like I said earlier, the length I want is 35. So I've already marked the baseline and then the length of my dress. So the one to my left is the baseline, while this one is the length of the dress. So I left 2 inches just right below that so that I can use that to hem the dress. So this part that is facing me, okay, which is the folded part, will be the center front and the center back. All right, so from the folded edge, okay, I'm measuring 15 inches, which is the measurement from the back of my neck to the sleeve. Okay, that is 15 inches right there. And after that, I'm going to measure my waist length. So that is going to be from this baseline. I'm going to measure out my waist length, and that is 15.5 inches. So that is what I'm marking right there, 15.5 inches. This measurement might not be necessary, okay, but I'm going to show you later on why I drew the line. All right, so from the waistline, I'm measuring my hips length. Okay, so my hips is actually 7.5. From my waist to my hips, that is 7.5. So that is what I'm marking out right there, and I'm going to draw it into a straight line. So guys, to get the measurement that we are going to mark on the hips, okay, I'm going to subtract 2 inches from what I marked on the baseline. All right, so that is going to be 15 inches minus 2 inches, so that will be 13 inches. All right, which is what I'm marking right there. All right, and also I want you to take something into consideration. Okay, the fact that I just subtracted 2 inches is not sufficient. Okay, so whatever you are marking on your hips line, ensure that if you multiply it by 4, it will accommodate your hips. Okay, and it will leave some extra allowance. So now to the hem of the dress. To get the hem of the dress, what I'm going to do is to deduct 2 inches from the hips that I measured up there. Okay, so on the hips line I measure 13 inches, so 13 minus 2, that will be 11 inches. So I'll be marking 11 inches there. All right, one other thing that I want you to take note is that ensure that when you multiply what you have at your hem by 4, it will still be able to go through your hips. All right, I hope you understand me. So guys, back to the baseline, which is the neckline, right? We're going to mark our sleeve opening. All right, so what you should do is that you should measure around your biceps, all right, and whatever you have, divide it by 2, okay, and add extra 2 to 3 inches. So guys, what I did here was to measure 9 inches down from the 15 inches that I marked on the baseline. I measured 9 inches down. I got 9 inches by dividing my biceps by 2, that is 12 divided by 2, that is 6. All right, and then I added 3 inches extra, okay, just for it to be big. All right, and then I marked 9 inches, so I'm going to draw 9 inches into a straight line just like this. So the next thing that we are going to do, right on that 9-inch mark, you're going to mark 2 inches inward. Okay, what we are trying to do is to create room for our sleeve. All right, so from that 2-inch mark that I marked again, I'm going to mark 2 inches downward again. All right, the reason for doing this is because we want to create a curve from that 9-inch mark down to our hips. All right, we want to create a curve. If you're good with freehand, you can just draw the line. All right, but if you're not good with it, measure 2 inches inward, 2 inches downward, and then you're going to connect those 2 points, all right, with your French curve. But before we do that, in order to give my sleeve a little slant, all right, I'm going to go in, okay, by about 1 inch and just give it a little slant. I hope you understand me. Okay, you can leave it as it is as well, and you can just give it a little slant. It doesn't really make much of a difference. Okay, so I haven't curved those 2-inch mark that we marked. All right, I'm going to draw a straight line to my hips. So after drawing the straight line to my hips, the next thing I'm going to do is to connect it to my hem. Okay, so here I'm just going to use my French curve because we want it to have a little curvy effect from the hips to the hem of the dress. So guys, next thing we are going to do is to slant the neckline. Okay, so on this line right here, on the line for the sleeve opening, I'm going to measure down 1 inch. So for the neck opening, all right, I'm going to measure a width of 3 inches and a depth of 1 inch for the back, and then a depth of 3 inches for the front, just like this, just as we mark our neck usually. Okay, and then I'm going to curve it with a French curve. So now I'm going to connect that 3-inch mark, which is the width of the neck. I'm going to connect it straight down to the slant that I made. Okay, so now back to the waistline. You know, I told you earlier that I was just going to mark the waistline and then I might not do anything to it. Okay, so now let me show you. If you don't want your dress to be that wide at the waistline, okay, you can just curve it inward this way. Okay, but for me, I wouldn't go in at the waist at all. Okay, but if you want it to have a curvy effect at the waist, okay, you can just go in at the waistline by about 1 inch from the mark that you drew earlier. Okay, I hope you understand me. And then you curve it from the sleeve opening to the waist, and then from the waist to the hips. All right, so now the next thing I'm going to do is to add seam allowances around all the marks that I have made. Okay, so I'm adding a 1-inch seam allowance all around, but at the neckline and at the sleeve opening I'm going to be marking a 0.5-inch seam allowance. So I'll start to cut the dress. So now guys, to cut the neck, I'm going to cut the back neck first. You know the back is actually higher than the front, all right? So I'm going to cut that first, all right? And after cutting that, I'm going to remove the back pattern and then I'll cut the neckline for the front. Remember to add seam allowances to your neckline and to your shoulder line, all right? So I want this dress to have pockets. So what I'm going to do is to measure 5 inches down from my waistline, okay? So that is going to be the starting point for the pocket, okay? So here I'm just going to notch it, okay, on all the 4 pieces, okay? So that when I start to sew, I'm going to get the correct point for all the 4 pieces, all right? So here I am going to remove the back pattern, which is the one underneath, okay, and then I'm going to concentrate on the front pattern, okay? So what I'm going to do is to cut the neckline first, all right? I'm going to cut the neckline that is 0.5 inch above what we drew, okay? So that is going to serve as the seam allowance for the neckline. I hope you understand me. Okay, so in order to create a form of opening for the dress, because it's not going to have a zipper or a button, what I'm going to do is to make a deep cut of about 6 inches right there, okay, and I'm going to cut it straight down from the 3-inch mark that we marked. I'm just going to cut it straight down. So guys, now we are going to cut the facing for the dress, okay? If you don't mind, you can use a bias strip to finish the neckline. You don't have to cut the facing, you don't have to, all right? Place a fabric that is enough to cut the facing underneath the fabric, and then you trace out the neckline, okay? Ensure that the edges of the fabric match, especially the center front and the center back, all right? So the width and the length of your facing depends on you, but what I used here was about, while on fold, what I used here was about 8 by 6 inches. So to cut the facing for the front, I'm going to find an extra piece of fabric and then I'm going to place the main fabric on top of it, just like this, okay? So guys, because the front has an opening, we are going to make the front facing longer than that of the back, all right? I hope you understand. So you can draw whatever shape that you want. So guys, here is what I did, okay? So for me, I'm going to mark the point where the deep cut actually ends, which is that. So I'm going to ensure that the facing is lower, is actually lower, is longer than that, all right? So you can see what I'm doing, all right? I'm not marking it at the exact point where the V, where the deep cut is, okay? I'm going about 3 to 4 inches lower than it, okay? And that is what you should do, all right? So after doing this, I'm just going to cut out the facing. So guys, I'm bringing the facing back in here, okay, so that I can cut out the neckline, okay, and also mark that deep cut that I made, okay? So we're going to do the exact same thing, all right, that we did on the neckline for the main fabric. We're going to do the exact same thing on the facing, all right? So now let us cut the pocket. So I am going to find an extra piece of fabric that is enough to accommodate my pocket, Okay, and then I'm going to fold the fabric into 4. Then I'm going to place the palm of my hands on it, and then I am going to trace it out. So here I have attached the pockets to the dress. So for the neckline of the dress, actually, if you want the facing to be outside, you will place the right side of the facing on the wrong side of the fabric, okay, so that by the time you sew it and then you turn it, the facing will be outside. We do that most times when you are using a contrasting color or when your fabric is not as busy as mine. You see, this already has a lot of designs, okay, and it wouldn't really be obvious if the facing is outside. Okay, so if you want the facing to be inside, just like mine, all right, what you're going to do is that you're going to place the right side of the facing on the right side of the fabric. Okay, I hope you understand. If you want the facing to be inside, right side of the fabric facing the right side of the facing. If you want the facing to be outside, right side of the facing facing the wrong side of your fabric. Okay, so that by the time you sew and then you turn it inside out, the facing will be where you want it to be. I hope you understand. So I am going to do the same for the back as well. All right, so for me, I want the facing to be inside, so I'm going to place the right side of the facing on the right side of the fabric. I'm going to sew it at the neckline with a 0.5 inch seam allowance, and then I'm going to come back and show you what it looks like. So here guys, I have sewn the facing to the fabric, okay, and what I did after sewing the facing to the fabric was just to notch it, okay, all around. So now the next thing we are going to do is this. We are going to turn it inside out, so here, so that my facing will not be bulky. By the time I turn it, I'm just trying to trim the corner, okay, and then I'll turn it inside out. After turning it inside out, you're going to iron it so that everything can lay flat. So you're going to do the same for the front and for the back, okay. And one other thing that you should do is that you should top stitch, okay, so that the facing will not be coming out of your neckline. So guys, I've ironed the facing to the main fabric and I have top stitched it. So now the next thing we're going to do is to join them together at the shoulder line, okay, and then finish the sleeve and then the sides and then the hem, okay, and that will be all. Okay, so to join it together at the neckline, what you're going to do is this. You're going to open it up this way, all right. So here I'm opening it up, okay, so the facing is facing the facing so the facing is actually facing each other, the one for the front and the one for the back, and then you're going to sew it with a 0.5 inch seam allowance, okay, right from the facing to the shoulder line of the main fabric, okay. Mind you, the fabric are facing each other right side to right side, okay. So by the time you're joining the two fabrics together, ensure that the neckline of the front matches the neckline of the back. So you're just going to pin it down, okay. You do that to both sides, all right, both sides, and then you sew it with a 0.5 inch seam allowance. So guys, after sewing it together, this is what I have. So the next thing that I'm going to do is to join the sides, okay. So right from this part, okay, which is the sleeve opening, okay, I'm going to join it with a 0.5 inch seam allowance, okay, through from here, okay, through to the pocket and through to the hem, okay. So I'm going to do that on both sides. So looking at this now, our dress is done, okay, and it is looking very, very beautiful. It is just a one-piece dress that I think every girl should have. It is very, very beautiful. So thank you very much for watching my tutorial. Thank you. If it has been helpful, please share it, like, and then drop comment. I'm going to respond to you. You know I always do. Please subscribe if you have not. Alright, please share with your friends and let the channel grow with a new way. I wish you joy, love, and happiness. Bye.